Okay, so we were talking about Arlen's insane like origin story on the show, and like she didn't even know she was going to play old Nicta, which I didn't watch the show. So I can't believe you recorded season 2, having never seen season 1. That is
Oh no,
amazing
no,
to
I
me.
did see it. I did
Oh,
see
okay.
it.
Oh, you saw.
I
Okay.
did see it before doing
Okay.
Okay.
season 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you knew what the spree were kind of about there.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's why I was like, what's going on with these balloons? and I was like, aren't they like kind of forcing people to do this? And like Elliot was like, no, not at all. And cleared up the whole Willa and Scylla situation, because I was just like, it feels like the spree is like sending creepy messages and forcing people to do stuff. And I found out that's not the case. So cool, feeling good for the spree on that one.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you kind of had a rogue element. I'm disappointed Willa didn't get to. You didn't have like there was no Nicta Willa. Like, girl, what are you doing? You're like off piste doing others. Like, why? What are you doing?
Well, the spree's so huge. I feel like there's so many factions. It's all over the world, so it's very hard to control what individual people are doing. I think there's like basic missions, but it's not as, I don't think it's as top down as the army.
Let's press on, DJ. I think you have the next question.
I'll be completely honest. You have told us so many things that, not even as a joke, we have so many of these questions already written that you just in that whole process answered, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
So are there any, was there anything specific that Elliot had told you that just pops out at you that was just cool or was very surprising about either Nicta or the spree that sort of allowed you to sort of carry through as you created this character in your mind?
I think, okay, I'll give you a couple, but one of the biggest ones was that the spree was all about consent. I was just like, that was a curveball for me, having watched the show, but I was like, that's okay. And that everyone had a choice. The foundation of the spree was what happened in Liberia, and recognizing that once you're conscripted into an army, you don't have those choices. So the spree has to be shaped on the idea that everyone has a choice to be part of it or not. I was also surprised that humans were part of the spree as well. And I was like, okay, so some humans are also down for this liberation of witches from this form of conscription. And the other thing, I mean, not surprised, but it was just like, I was like, an Alder, like, why am I doing all this stuff to Alder? And there's a lot of explanation, but Elliot was like, vengeance is definitely there. Like, great. Okay, cool. Because I want to justify vengeance to myself as an actor. Like, I need to know why that's there, how I got there. And so those are beautiful nuggets to help me really develop Nicta as not this kind of one-dimensional sassy asshole that just likes killing people, but someone who really has a morality as to the choices that she makes. And and I know lots of people love Alder. I totally get that. But Nicta didn't have the same journey of love with Alder. And I or did have it, and then it got totally shattered. And so I think those are the biggest things that marked me when I was developing Nicta, and just that she comes from a lot of sadness and a lot of pain, a lot of hurt. So those are all juicy things to dive into and to build a world around, and I'm very grateful for them, because I hope that it made Nicta not just a jerk, but I also love it when people hate her. So I'm here for all of it.
I had an emotional roller coaster of a journey getting to know Nicta. I will say, like,
really?
I was up and down. I was like, oh, that bitch, but I love her. I love that bitch. It's kind of, I went back and forth, and her whole thing with Alder. I was like, we spent a couple of episodes being like, what is up with like her obsession with Sarah? Like, I had this whole headcanon. I was like, it's like a psycho ex-girlfriend. I was like, maybe they had a thing, and like she was feeling betrayed on a couple of levels. The Talder thing was like sort of in full flame with the fandom, and so I was like, well, maybe this is history repeating itself. Like a little, how could you not? Sarah's quite, Lynn's an amazing like person. I'd be like, I would be in love with that, and then like be betrayed, that
With
might
that,
make me
I love
vengeful.
that. I would be in love with
With all of that she's
I
got
know.
going on.
I'm totally teasing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you didn't know you were playing older Nicta, right? That must have been just like a real head trip for you when you knew that was going to happen.
Mhm.
How did that change your approach to the character? Because I think you probably had a very specific read on young Nicta, right? Like she
Mhm.
came across a little bit more like sort of eager and kind of the ingenue and like worshiping Sarah, but older Nicta is quite different than who we see in Liberia. So how did you, like when you knew she were going to play older Nicta, like how did you have to reset yourself?
Well, there was something that I was developing in younger Nicta, which was just that kind of she's in this lower place. She's like here and she looks up. But she's still like it was something about like where I felt her in my body, like in the physicality of her. I just felt her in this kind of like lower place. And I don't know if that's what, because apparently they did audition a bunch of people for older Nicta. Like they even asked me like, for casting, like, what's your ethnicity? Because we want to try and match you. And I was like, don't. I'm mixed race. It's complicated. So I started from that same place because that place was still kind of like in this like kind of like a wounded animal, like don't attack me type of place. But then grounded her in strength and time. And one thing I find that's very powerful is just looking people in the eye the whole time. You just stare at them and let them speak. Because often when we converse, we're not always looking each other straight in the face, much less like right in the eyes the whole time. It's such a power move to do that. So I found older Nicta in a more contemplative place, just always kind of watching everything around her and just like analyzing the people in front of her. And there was a kind of a power in that she didn't have when she was looking at older, but definitely I could find in this older Nicta. Also playing with her voice. I'm like, but like Nicta's
kind of like she's turning on a dime, basically.
Yeah. So just bringing her down. And we're very fortunate to have combat training twice a week. And we did some Filipino martial arts with Eskrima.
Oh, nice.
And so I had a really beautiful friend who's just like, you should do your lines with that. And so I would just kind of like whip and say each line and just feel what that power was. So much exploration and just building like this new energy. And also she's now 50 and they did do some tests first to like try and age me. And I think the network decided in the end that like I could just fire my face as I fire facials. So yeah, and I was nervous because I was like, I'm interpreting this person who's much older now and who's different from this younger version. So am I going to be able to get that? But I worked a lot on her walk. I worked a lot on her speech patterns, how fast she spoke. And and that delivered the person that you were able to see in season 2.
That's amazing. I feel like I saw a lot of that in your physicality as well. Like I felt like when Nicta was sort of like,
oh, we lost
having
there she goes.
The thing in the woods. Sorry, am I back?
Yes.
Yeah, the thing in the woods. It was almost like watching like a panther sort of creep around. Like you kind of had this strong but like lazy, like sort of deceptively lazy sort of like way about how you move your body around that I quite like.
Yes, and costumes is amazing too. There's such an incredible costume department. They tailor a lot of the stuff to us as the actors, and I think the first Nicta costume fitting was like almost, I might be wrong, but I remember it as 4 hours and like twice, so like maybe 8 hours to establish Nicta over 2 days. I might be wrong, but it felt like that. Not in a bad way, because I love costumes and I love costume departments and they're so fun. We had great music playing, but we were just like, no, this cape, no, not this cape. No, we want a hood. No, we don't want a hood. And they give you so much freedom to be like, how does this feel for you? Like, does this feel right? And even the detail of the kind of boots that you wear, like I really was like, I think she's in the woods. There's an element of practicality in that, like, she has to be able to like move around and things easily. And I'm like, she's older, so like I want some nice boots, but also practical and strong. And I also feel as an actor that shoes are very important because it instantly affects the way that you move. Like if you're in heels and you're comfortable in them or you're not, like for example, Demetria and Amalia in their badass scenes when they are at that
like
kind
when
of,
they're at the hotel, the gala. Yes.
and like they can own being in those heels, but that changes your energy as soon as your heels, you take those shoes away and add some heavy boots, like that's going to ground you in a different place.
You literally feel like you can stomp someone's face in.
Exactly. So I love that connection to costume. And so that was just an extra layer. Like everyone just works together to build you up. And then the cinematography, the lighting, like they're just, it's such a group effort. I'm just one of the pieces. I'm just one of the NICTA pieces.
So you had mentioned how you had to think about NICTA coming from the place when she was younger and in Liberia and being in a place where she looked up to the general, maybe even wanted to be her or at least be at her side. And then going to this level of person who, with consent, of course, is trying to do her best to take Alder down. Are there any key plots that you kind of thought to yourself about how exactly NICTA got from that point to this point? Because that's a pretty huge dynamic to try and force a character. A lot of shit has to happen to get there.
Well, season 1 helps a lot because and you get a nugget of it in season 2 when Petra asks Alder like why, and Alder's just like it was a common enemy that we could all fight. And season 1 has a lot of anti-spree propaganda. So for NICTA, that just like every time like news reports come out demonizing the spree, when the spree is just saying, hey, can you just stop using us for war meat? Like give us the choice if we want to be part of the military, give us the choice of living our lives. Just because we're witches doesn't mean we need to be in wars or using our powers for wars, especially for humans who don't see us as having the value of being able to live a life. So NICTA definitely has her violent methods for sure, but there is a betrayal of these witches in the army, and in the kind of making them a terrorist organization in the eyes of humans as well. That I think every time the announcements come out, like what happens with the truck when the army ends up killing a whole bunch of sacrificing a whole bunch of civilians, and they blame these things on the spree. Like there's a lot of things that have happened and the army will be like, oh, it was the spree, it was a convenient and
it was a scapegoat.
It's a scapegoat. And NICTA says in the jail cell to the unit, watch, they're going to turn you into monsters, because that's what the spree eventually became. Like we became these monsters that everyone feared, and the message was lost that like we should just have lives, and if you're going to kill us, if you're willing to have our lives be expendable, then we'll kill the same amount of humans that die as witches that die every year. Again, would this be my method of shifting minds?
They consider flyers.
Flyers, but also I don't live in that world. And we're now, I think in season 3, we're going to get more of a glimpse of what it's like to be around humans. Season 1, you get like a little bit when they kind of go to that pizza shop and these people are like, you witches suck. It's like they're not as respected and loved as like they feel within this little confine of a haven that Alder's kind of tried to create for them. I sometimes see it as like different waves of feminism, whereas like Alder was like, we just need the right to like live, we need to like, and we'll still do stuff for you, but like at least you're not killing us. That's what Alder fought. And then NICTA's like, that's not enough. I want to live that life.